The Fuji X-E3 APS-C camera, of course, as all Fuji X series cameras are. I'm just gonna put the lens on. This is actually as I bought it with a kit lens 23 f2. It's really a great lens. I would advise you, if you do not need a zoom, I would really advise you to go for this one. You can really buy the 18 to 55 zoom lens cheaply on the internet. This will probably be a little bit harder. Okay, so the camera's build is really sturdy. I think, you know, you can just throw it in a backpack. Nothing should happen to it. You have no moving parts. As for example, in the Sony camera, you have a rubber here or stuff like that. As you can see, all the doors and everything like that is pretty much done well. The battery and the SD card go into the same slot. Something I don't like, but most of the mid-range cameras have that. Only the pro level cameras have separate doors for the SD cards. I don't know why, but it is what it is. The first thing that differentiates it from other Fuji cameras is that the screen is not moving, it's just fixed, so you cannot really do anything with it. Of course, there are no programs. You only have the shutter dial, the aperture dial. Here you set it to auto, and here to auto, and you have program mode. There actually is an auto mode here. To be honest, I never used it. I don't know how it works, and I'm really not even interested. As you can see, you can put the soft shutter. It turns itself on pretty quickly, but to be honest, I have some problems. Sometimes it gets stuck, especially if it goes to sleep mode, if you're not using it for a couple of minutes and then you're trying to wake it up, it doesn't work. Then you turn it off, it doesn't turn off really, it's just stuck and you cannot turn it on for a couple of seconds. So this is something you need to remember when you're buying it. As far as shutter speeds, with the timer mode, you can go as high as 15 minutes. So this is really cool, a cool function. Not every camera has it. The X-T20, for an example, doesn't have it. The Fuji X-T2 and X Pro do have it. So you don't need any sort of remote or anything like that to shoot long exposures. As you can see, there is no D-pad as with other Fuji cameras. What you have instead is just those gestures, like film simulations, right? It's quite easy to use once you learn how to do it exactly, but of course the D-pad would be better. Like in Fuji X-T2, you have a D-pad here and a joystick here, and it's the build is more or less similar. Of course, you have the joystick to set the focus point, which is great. I really don't like the cameras that have the double use for the D-pad or for the wheel. To set the focus. This one doesn't, and I think it's a trend in 2017 and 2018. I hope all new cameras will have a joystick. Autofocus is really reliable and really fast, especially in low light situations. This is the main thing I noticed, for an example, as a difference from the Sony A7 II, that in low light situations it really focuses fast. There's no problem. The Sony used to search for the focal point a long time. Of course, it doesn't have the image stabilization. Also, the lens doesn't have it. So, in low light situations, of course, you'll have to crank up the ISO because you have to shoot at faster shutter speeds, and this kind of defeats the purpose of, I don't know, you make the f2 lens and don't put any stabilization, and you have to crank up the ISO anyway. So you could make the 2.8 lens, make it smaller and put the OIS in the lens. I don't know why Fuji doesn't do that, but they don't. So with 23 millimeters, it really isn't that much of a problem, but with longer lenses, it is. Really, I have a 60 for an example, and you can really see the camera shake when you're shooting it. Of course, it's a standard Fuji menu. You can set up my menu here. I won't probably bore you. There are tons of tutorials on the camera that will just go through the menu. It's really readable. For an example, I would say that in comparison to Sony, it's easier to use. I really learned my photography on Sony, so I would say I don't find the menu complicated as most people do, but this is easier. The controls on the camera are really cool. You have the aperture ring here, shutter speed here, and you can set the ISO here to this dial, and you have all three main functions of the that influence the exposure. You can control from here. You don't have to go into any sort of menu or anything like that. There is no drive dial, as you can see. You have the drive button instead. You can choose here between still images and how many frames per second you shoot. I think the 14. Oh, it actually works. So the 14 works as well. I thought it's 11, but live and learn, I guess. Of course. Other than that, you have a front button or thingy to just change between focus modes, like single focus, continuous focus, and manual focus. With manual, of course, you have focus peaking, which is really reliable. Found myself shooting with it without even using the focus magnifier and getting sharp images exactly at the point I wanted them to be sharp. So you can use adapter and any sort of manual lens with it. So for this, the camera is also kind of cool. I'm using it with a Helios 44 lens that is a M42 mount lens, and just very reliable to use. You can also do the focus regarding the focus, autofocus. You can do it from the camera. As you can see, you can set it here, but you can set it up like like in the DSLR live view or something like that. You cannot really drag it like, for an example, you can with Panasonic or Olympus cameras, as you can see here. It's not that responsive. You can also use it while looking through the viewfinder, but I really find myself only using the joystick. It's really handy. You have it on all the time. You don't have to switch or turn any buttons or anything like that. Of course, one thing that will be controversial that I'm going to say right now is I do not really like the X-Trans sensor. I find the photos a little bit too pink, especially when I have to match them to something I did earlier. I find working on the colors a little bit cumbersome. I personally like the Sony colors better. I understand that many people love Fuji colors and wouldn't change them for anything. To those people I say just, be happy with the camera you have. The photos will be a little bit darker, they will be a little bit more moody, I would say, than the biosensor cameras. So if the artistic feel is what you want to do, if you want your photos to have this feel to them, it is really great for that. But if you want to just have a plain canvas on which you can do anything you want, I would say the raw files aren't that malleable, especially in Lightroom. I don't know in other systems. I know that people on Mac use some kind of software to just convert the raw files to DNG and then work on them in Lightroom and stuff like that. I will not be doing anything like that. I want my Lightroom to work on my iPad because this is where I do my, when I choose the photos I want to work on and everything. So I will not change my workflow really, and it's a little bit cumbersome, but some people love it, they swear by it. For me, I would buy, if Fuji made this camera with a biosensor version, I would buy it instead of this one. But other than that, if you want the Fuji camera, if the smaller format, I would say this is better than X-E3. I had the X-E3 for a short while as well, and you can have a really better grip, and instead of focusing here on the D-pad, you have a joystick here. So as you can see, instead of doing this, You can just go like this. It's much more handy. And of course, if tiltable screen is something that you really need, go for the X-T20, of course. If not, really, I would tell you to consider this one instead. Okay, so this is what I have to say about the camera. Hope I helped you with the choices you were making regarding purchases. All right, thanks. Bye.